Trump drops brutal clip of Dems, calling 8-12-year-old Biden incredibly sharp, following CBS reporter's admission that obvious cognitive decline was underreported. Donald Trump posted a brutal supercut of liberals spending 2024 in denial about Joe Biden's cognitive decline after some reporters have blasted how it went uncovered. Jan Crawford, CBS chief legal correspondent, shamed media that failed to cover his decline, mainly liberal outlets like The Washington Post, until the topic became undeniable during his Trainwreck debate against Donald Trump. Trump appeared to respond to this with a 2-minute, 45-second video posted to his Truth Social account Monday night. Everyone from Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre to DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to General Mark Milley praised how sharp they felt Biden still was. It later cuts to Nancy Pelosi, who is largely credited with forcing Biden out of the race after the debate disaster, for multiple statements vouching for the president. Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He is a strategic thinker, Pelosi declares. Senators Chris Coons and Bernie Sanders, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, Attorney General Merrick Garland, to even First Lady Jill Biden. Very few leading Democrats are spared, as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Representatives Jamie Raskin and Jim Clyburn also praised Biden. Trump posted the video without any caption and made no mention of Crawford's comments Sunday. Crawford, who has been a regular on CBS News since 2005, during the year-end Correspondents' Roundtable on Face the Nation, was asked Sunday morning what the most undercovered and underreported topic was this year. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate, she said, unquestioned. The contributor cited the Wall Street Journal's explosive investigation earlier this month that exposed an extensive, deliberate White House cover-up to hide Biden's rapidly diminishing mental condition from the public throughout his entire presidency. The report alleged that Biden's staff limited his in-person interactions and that he was shielded by senior advisors who were put into roles that others felt the president should have occupied. Daily Mail.com, throughout Biden's presidency, has routinely highlighted the countless gaffes, stumbles, and mistakes that should have served as warning of his declining mental health. Crawford slammed his advisors for insisting that Biden, 82, could still run for re-election, despite their efforts to hide his apparent mental incompetence, and argued that if journalists had more forcefully questioned his fitness, there may have primary for the Democrats. She further criticized the media, specifically naming the left-leaning Washington Post, for continuing to report how Biden regrets that he dropped out of the race and thinks he could have beaten Trump. It's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations, which has been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years, Crawford told Face the Nation, noting that he still insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election. She then blasted liberal outlets for still publishing alleged comments from Biden's staff stating he believes he could have won the election, which she claims is delusional. Still, incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump, she added. And I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting the American people. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa, who also participated in the roundtable, seemingly defended the administration, telling Crawford, President Biden has said repeatedly he was sick during the debate June 27 in Atlanta, and he's always been fine, and he leads fine. That is his position. the position of many of his top aides as well, even though there is that reporting. Perhaps the first time the public started to become alarmed was when President Biden demonstrated his dramatic physical limitations, falling repeatedly on the stairs while boarding Air Force One on March 18, 2021, for a trip to Atlanta, Georgia. By August 2021, however, Biden started to demonstrate real struggles in communicating and reacting to major public events. And during the botched exit from Afghanistan, Biden continued keeping his remarks closely scripted for days, refusing to respond to shouted questions from reporters and staying on script with his talking points. But earlier this month, Biden's alleged incompetency was put on fully display when the Wall Street Journal exposed the White House's deliberate and years-long cover-up to shield the public from his declining cognitive health. The president's team hired a vocal coach, scrapped meetings on his bad days, and kept him at arm's length from his own cabinet members, the report alleged. Biden, 82, allegedly leaned on a close circle of unelected advisors and officials who had been put into roles usually occupied by the president. The administration would also gaslight those who dared to claim Biden's abilities had deteriorated since he was Barack Obama's vice president, according to the report. At the same time, press aides who were tasked with compiling news clips were instructed by senior staff to leave out any negative stories about the president. But despite the efforts of eager beaver handholders, by late June this year, Biden's decline was on full display when he debated Trump. Gaffes, fumbles, and blank stares from the president filled the hour-and-a-half televised event. It proved catastrophic for his campaign. The face-off with Trump is what ultimately led the public, and even senior Democrats in Washington, to call for Biden to end his bid for re-election. Liberal media giants even added fuel to fire by making bombshell demands of the commander-in-chief and asking him to quit the presidential race. Time magazine released a startling cover on their August edition that showed the president appearing to wander off the page with the singular word, panic, for the title. The magazine also reported Democratic Party leaders were in a state of disarray while they were watching the debate unfold. The Washington Post editorial board took Biden to task by asking him whether continuing to stay in the race at the sake of his own pride was worth the damage it could do the country. On MSNBC's Morning Joe, one of the president's favorite programs, host Joe Scarborough gently urged Biden to step aside. Similarly, the Georgia-based Atlanta Journal-Constitution issued a shocking front-page ultimatum for Biden to drop out of the 2024 presidential race following his excruciating debate flop. The editorial board wrote that retirement is now necessary for Biden and asked him to pass the torch to a more competent candidate. The New York Times editorial board also demanded Biden drop his bid for re-election and, in a scathing opinion piece, said he appeared to be a shadow of himself and that the argument that he was the best Democratic candidate to take on Trump was no longer valid. A month after the debate, Biden threw in the towel and endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, who Trump nonetheless defeated on November 5. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates refuted the Wall Street Journal's account that Biden's mental fitness has declined. Instead, Bates said that he has earned the most accomplished record of any modern commander-in-chief and rebuilt the middle class because of his attention to policy details that impact millions of lives. Biden has been an undisciplined public speaker throughout his more than 50-year political career. He also had a childhood stutter that he often cites for the reason he would stumble over his words. Despite the efforts of aides, Biden is leaving office with members of his own party lambasting him for being selfish. Many believe that he was only looking out for himself by staying in the 2024 presidential race past the point of being unfit for another term. Others are furious over his decision to pardon his son Hunter, 54, earlier this month after he was convicted of lying on a federal form to purchase a gun in 2018. Polls showed Biden's approval rating hitting an all-time low as he prepared to leave office.